thank you so much for joining me today and talking about this really important topic. And first, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, including your current professional role and your career journey.
Sure. So my name is Catie Williams. I am Vice President of Product Development at InEight. What that means is I oversee several products at InEight. We are a construction software company. So I oversee several products from a career journey perspective. I started as an application developer myself. Don't know that I was a great developer, but we'll get into that more. And then quickly pivoted from being an application developer into the data and analytics space. I have implemented operational data stores, enterprise data warehouses, and then just quickly pivoted into the external. I worked at a large construction company, Kiewit, for a very long time, and then transitioned over to InEight, where we now sell construction software to other companies. And so first started with, products that were just around data and analytics, and now I support other products that we sell. And then I also run a couple programs at a local university for data science too. So I am definitely a self-proclaimed data nerd, data geek, all things data. I'm very passionate around that. So about that. So I was always really good at like math and science in high school and computers. But I was actually pre-med when I went into college. And like I remember in maybe like a chemistry, I can't remember if it was just like basic chemistry or organic chemistry, but like I did not do very well on a test. And there was all these other people around me that did a lot better than I did, but they were crying after taking the test. I'm like, why am I not crying? Like I am not as upset as these other people are. And I really quickly realized, like, I don't think I feel as much passion for this as I probably should. So I quickly realized that the science part of it was not my thing, and made some other like major changes. But then I kind of came back to, I always really liked computers in school. Maybe I should take that route. And the school I went to didn't have very many people in the degree, and so they were, I wouldn't say promoting it or marketing it. That's probably the wrong word for what they were doing at the time, but there just weren't a lot of people in that degree program. And so I really liked the idea of having a very small group of students in the class. And so I got to do a lot of independent studies and get a lot of focus. And as soon as I got into it, I realized, oh, this comes really natural to me. I really like it. So InEight is doing something really cool. It's something I definitely feel a lot of passion for. The construction industry has not seen productivity gains in several decades. And so the entire focus of InEight is to try to make a huge difference in improving productivity across the industry through our improved business processes by integrating our applications and standardizing, the way the work is done, and then by bringing all of that together through insights and the information that can now be realized, right, by actually digitizing the information and then tracking it, and again standardizing the processes. So I definitely feel a lot of passion around making the lives of those in the field easier, and making sure that they get home safe and things like that. But again, also reducing some of the more manual work that they do and having those workers focus on more value add activities. And I would say that's really what our focus is how can we make them more productive, and really focus on driving better information, to make those better business decisions. I mean, I think like when I first came over, just like the concept of the cloud is probably something that was pretty foreign in terms of the industry, and like it was scary, and no one wanted to go to the cloud, no one wanted to be the first to the cloud. So just to think, like when I reflect back on, I think I've been there for 7 years at this point, to reflect back on how far we've come in just the trust and adoption of using cloud-based technologies is pretty exciting to think like, oh, now I think the pendulum would go the other way. No one wants to leave their data, in some data center in your own garage or where, right, whatever, your own office building, and trust that you've got the right cybersecurity and things like that. So that's, I think, just from a very high level view, exciting. But the information that's now available through the integration, I mean, that's something that I personally have been so involved in. And I think, again, if I put my hat on of where I used to be, me getting data out of some of these systems was impossible. I used to just say, oh, these vendors hold it hostage from us. We can't even get it. They want you to buy their system and then you can't get anything out of it. And so for me to be personally part of making it available to our customers, and not just making it available, but actually giving them information that changes their business, that makes them more profitable, that makes them, be able to make a decision the next day versus them having to wait a month to make it. I mean, like, those are the things that make me excited to show up to work the next day. First, I would say thank you for including me in the conversation and asking me. I think that's like a huge step, is to even be included in part of the conversation. So I would say thank you for that. And I feel like just like the first thing is representation, and that's probably the biggest miss that happens, is that it's really easy to have upper level management have these conversations and brainstorm and say, oh, this is what we need to do and this is how we're going to fix the problem, instead of doing the grassroots work of just including the different groups of people in the conversation to go about fixing the problem. I think that just happens too often, that we assume someone else can represent another group, whether that's women or people of color's opinions and perspectives, without actually having them in the room. And so I think that's the real opportunity, is to increase the representation so that you can really find out what are the things that are needed. And, I've experienced that myself in numerous occasions where it's like, oh, we're going to change this policy. And then, maybe management makes the change, but they don't involve the actual people that it changes. And then when they ask for input, it's like, oh, that's what you really want. It's like, well, if we had gotten your opinion, it's like, yeah, maybe ask for that, right? And so I think there's all kinds of examples you can hear of those type of things happening. And it's just because it requires more work, right? It's harder to do it that way. And sometimes it reveals things you don't want to know about yourself or your organization, or it is going to require more difficult, uncomfortable conversations. But I think representation for sure is the biggest piece. But it takes more time. It's not easy. It's not like checking the box and saying, hey, we rolled out these initiatives and we got it fixed. And I think, but that helps break up that echo chamber of the same people that look the same always making the decisions. And it really shows that you're making an effort when you pull in people that look differently, to weigh in on what really needs to be done to help increase the diversity. I mean, just speaking as a woman alone, I think a lot of the big things that they can do is just not let women be an afterthought. So considering the things that are different about women when it comes to our bodies, right? And that we have babies and we nurse and we have menstruation. So it's like considering those things before women show up versus making women ask, because then that's a great recruiting thing, right? So that it's like, I don't have to even get there and say, oh, but what about me? You didn't think about me. Those are very simple things. They seem like not that big of a deal, but they do make a difference. And then they prove that, hey, you consider me an equal member of the team. I think thinking that women don't want to work the long hours, they don't want to travel, and then they get passed up for things, that isn't always the case. Sometimes it's the case, but I think that's another big thing, is just trying to not let those stereotypes hold back the opportunity from a woman because you think that they might not be willing to do something based on whatever you've perceived, to be something that might be upcoming in their life, because that's really not the case for all women, right? And one woman doesn't speak for all women. And just because it happened with one woman doesn't mean it's going to happen with them all. So I think those are some things, but I guess I would wrap it all up by saying I think representation is the biggest thing, and not just sticking with diversity of thought, but really including them in the conversation. I guess I'm going to tell a little story. So I got to watch a woman named Amy Cuddy. She has a book called Presence speak once. And she talks all about how women, young girls really, how as they go into puberty, they start to like physically not take up space. Like they want to hide their body, and they like to, not draw a lot of attention to themselves. And like that's really where you start to see a young girl's confidence really start to decrease. And it was really transformative for me when I heard her talk. And she talks about all the science between how when you start to open up your body, your confidence increases. Because the first time I ever had to present in a meeting at my job, so I was a developer, I told you that. And when everyone turned to look at me and I had to talk, I went home that night and was like, if I have to do this every day, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm going to have to find something else. This is not for me. Fast forward to now, it's like, that's all I do is talk all the time. I finally got over it. But when she talked about the science of how girls go through this progression of trying to like hide their body and it impacts their brain chemistry and your confidence, it just really made me realize how important it is for me to take up my space. So my advice to women is to take up your space and to just really be loud, be unapologetic. This is what I tell people when I am mentoring young girls or anytime I'm talking to someone that is, I would say younger than me or really like struggling maybe with their confidence or doesn't feel like they should speak up. But, I think a big difference between men and women is that women often feel like if they make a mistake that it won't get overlooked. It's like I shouldn't try again. I think about that stat where if a woman applies for a job and or wants to apply for a job, doesn't meet 100% of the requirements, she won't apply, right? But men apply if they only meet like 75%. And it's kind of like that. Like if we're not 100% sure we're going to succeed, we don't even want to try. And um and that's what I would say is you have to fail. You have to take chances. And I think women are just a little bit less risky. And that would be my feedback is to take risks. Don't look at a job as being a male or a female job. If you're interested in the job, if you like math and science, you can do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a male dominated job just because a picture says that it is, or you don't see a female in the job or in the role, or someone that looks like you. And then I would also encourage you to find a strong female or a strong mentor. It doesn't have to be a female. I mean, I have fantastic male mentors, but someone that is going to help like boost your confidence and tell you that you got this. And I think confidence is probably the most important thing, like keeping that strong through that high school college time frame, because I think it just takes such a natural hit. I think that would be my biggest piece of encouragement.